Hi, this is Gus McGinnis from Keeley of the Valley. I'm their Knothead, and this is my course on Celtic knots that I usually give at the Samhain Fest. And if you're successful at putting together one of my boards, then I usually send it with you. But today you don't get that choice. But Celtic knots there, the origins are from sailors, I think, but the origin of knots in general is from way back when the people figured out how to twist together cordage or fibers into make ropes, and they used those to tie up their herds of cattle or sheep, or to tie up their produce, the grains and stuff, making sheaves of grain, and cowboys and vaqueros, and they did such things as lassos, cinches, lariats, and hondos, and then they got fancy with them and started using them to make embellishments for on their saddles or on their belts, all sorts of things like that. And the general properties of Celtic knotwork, I think, came from sailors in boredom on the ships, that because they'd have to tie up their nets or tie up their hooks and things like that, that they just got into working with the ropes, and they'd come up with fancy designs just to pass their time, trying to outdo one another with their designs, and book of kells and things like that. Then they used them as borders for the embellishments of that. But the basic idea of a Celtic knot is the over-under pattern of the cordage, and it's typically done with one size of rope all the way through, not changing anywhere to a bigger or thinner, kind of cordage. And they have pointed returns at the corners typically. Like on this, you can see it at the ends here, they're pointed. That's one of the main things of it. And the repetition of pattern, like on this one, then you can see it's the same pattern on four sides. And with this knot that we'll be doing, then you can see it's just the braided plate there. There's 8 common patterns in the knotwork of how to tie it and return it. There's the 3 cord, that's 3 cords there tied together, and you can just go just a straight braid, or you can turn it and return it. And then the 4 cord plait, then you have just the straight braid and just returns, and different sorts of fancier returns there. And it's gates and channels is the way that it was described to me when I first got into doing Celtic knots. I was already into it, but then somebody told me it was gates and channels, and it just kind of made sense that you have anywhere that it goes under would be a gate, and then this would be the channel going over the top of it in the pattern. And here's some examples of that on this drawing here, that they have the dot matrix like this down here, and you can see that they used it, they went around the dots, and they have the main dots are the ones where the lines are at, and then the intermediate ones that they use for turning, that's what my nails are intermediate dots on my boards to turn it around on. And here's some from drawings from previous classes that I've done from people that, some of them are way more artistic than I am on doing these things. But on this, one of the patterns down here, but there's some patterns that are more than 1 cord. As you can see, this pattern here is 3 different ones. I have them color coded here, and that's the way I teach my class, that you'll get just 3 cords, and they'll each have a different colored end on them, so you can keep track of where you're at, because it gets really tough once you start getting really tight on trying to figure out where those things go. This is a single cord knot. This is the first one that I figured out how to do. And this one is a 3 cord. You can see the 3 colors on it, and it's just if you make a mistake in there somewhere, then it's hard to figure out how to get back to it to fix it. So I don't do this one very often. So we'll be doing this knot number 1, which is the simple straight plate of a knot today, and let's get going on it. And I usually start somewhere right up in here on this corner with this one. And I just pull it over the nails, try and keep it as tight as possible, because I'm a cheapskate, and so I don't give extra rope ever. Not always ever, but a lot of times. But it's just that over, under, and for this chunk here, got to make sure I'm on the right go here. Because when you make mistakes, then you have to pull everything back to where you were at. And sometimes that gets frustrating. Trying to keep it snug, because I just did this a couple minutes ago and didn't keep it snug, and so I ran out of rope before it's time. But let's see how we do this time. Under, over, under. That's the main thing. It's the over, under, over, under, over, under all the time. And sometimes it doesn't quite make sense until you get that other one through. Because you'll have some that is, you're just laying over the top of everything every time you go through it. But then when you come through with that second pass, then it fixes it all. Fat fingers. See, that finishes up the plaiting on that one side, pretty much doing that. See this right in here, but that's looking like it's supposed to. There, around the corner, under, over, under, all the way. Then when we come back through the other way, then that's when we'll do the over, under with it and tie it all together. Over there, under both of these. Just about there. Snug it up to get myself a little bit more length here. Try and to figure out where to snug it up at. It gets tough sometimes because I'm trying to. That goes under there. This one comes around here, goes over that one, and under there to meet that other half. There we are, a Celtic knot. And there's quite a few, thousands of different Celtic knots going on. That's one that I've done and cut it out of iron before, and these are temple knots, Japanese temple knots. So it's almost every nationality has their own thing of knots. And this is one of those how to tie the knots, and just without the board to hold the nails and hold the rope, then it's really difficult to hold it down and keep it there as you go, because it takes a lot of hands to hold it in place. And so that's why I use the nails, and they go in every place that the rope has to turn. Gates and channels and intermediate dots and all those things. But that's Celtic knots. Thanks for your time. I hope you enjoy this, and I hope you build yourself a board. And I'll see you next year at the fest, I hope. Thank you.